Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. It's Mark here, and as usual, I've got Jenny with me. How's it going, Jenny?
Doing great, Mark. Always excited to dive into another fascinating tech topic with you. And today's is a doozy, right?
Oh, it is. We're talking about these 5G protection amulets that some celebrities have been, shall we say, promoting. Times Simju. It's wild.
Right? I saw some of these ads popping up, and my first thought was, wait, what? I mean, people are paying good money for these things that claim to, block Wi-Fi signals?
Yeah, and 5G too. They're marketed as some sort of shield against electromagnetic radiation. Which, sounds very sci-fi, but...
But it's not, right? It's not sci-fi, it's just fiction.
Exactly. So here's the thing about electromagnetic radiation, and I'll try not to get too deep into the weeds here, but it's everywhere. It's not just from your phone.
Okay, let's back up a sec. For anyone who's a bit lost, can we quickly break down what we mean by electromagnetic radiation?
Sure. So electromagnetic radiation is basically energy that travels in waves. It's a whole spectrum. From radio waves, which are super long, to gamma rays, which are tiny and really energetic.
And we're exposed to some form of it every day, right? Like sunlight?
Precisely. Sunlight is a form of it. Visible light, microwaves, X-rays, they're all on this spectrum. Now, 5G and Wi-Fi use radio waves, which are on the lower energy end.
Okay, so they're not like, say, X-rays, which everyone knows you need to be careful around.
Right. And here's where it gets interesting. There's ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. Ionizing, like X-rays and gamma rays, that's the stuff that can damage your cells. But 5G and Wi-Fi? They're non-ionizing. They don't have that power.
So, these amulets, they're playing on people's fears of the word radiation, even though it's not the scary kind in this case?
That's what it seems like. And I was reading this analysis. Linus Tech Tips, they're great. They actually took one of these amulets apart.
Oh, I love their channel. What did they find?
Nothing special. Just regular materials. Nothing that could, magically block electromagnetic waves. They even did CT scans and nada.
So, it's basically just a fashion statement then?
An expensive one, at that. It's kind of like, remember those power balance bracelets a few years back?
Oh yeah, those were supposed to improve your balance and strength, right? This feels very similar.
Exactly the same playbook. It's just preying on people's anxieties, Especially because 5G is still pretty new, and people hear all these conflicting things about it.
It's interesting how technology often gets caught up in these kinds of controversies. Remember when people were worried about Wi-Fi causing health issues?
Oh yeah. And before that, it was power lines. There's always something, it seems.
It's true. So what's the actual deal with 5G then? Is it really that different from, say, 4G or 3G?
Well, the main difference is that 5G uses higher frequencies. This means it can carry way more data, much faster. It's like going from a garden hose to a fire hose.
That sounds great for streaming and downloading, but does it mean it's more intense?
Not exactly. See, because these higher frequencies don't travel as far, and they don't penetrate things as easily, 5G actually needs more base stations, but they're smaller and lower power.
So you might have more of these little transmitters around, but each one is emitting less powerful signals?
That's the idea. And there are these experts, like Dr. Eric van Rongen, who chairs the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection.
That's a mouthful.
It is. But basically, they're the authority on this stuff. And they say that 5G, when used within the guidelines, is safe.
And I saw a quote from Dr. David Robert Grimes, a physicist, saying something similar. He was saying there's no known way that 5G could harm you.
Yeah, he's great at explaining these things. He points out that the radiation from 5G can't damage your DNA or cells directly. That's the key difference.
It's interesting, though. There was that study by the National Toxicology Program, the NTP, that found some link between cell phone radiation and tumors in rats.
Right. But, and this is important, those rats were exposed to levels way higher than what humans experience from phones, or 5G, and it was only in male rats. Not even consistently.
So, not exactly a direct comparison to how we use our devices?
Not at all. It's like saying, drinking 50 gallons of water a day is bad for you, and then concluding that we shouldn't drink water at all.
That's a great analogy. It is frustrating, though, that these kinds of studies, even when they're not directly applicable, can fuel so much fear.
Oh man, tell me about it. I saw that there's been actual vandalism of 5G towers in some places because of these conspiracy theories.
That's awful. It's one thing to be skeptical, but to damage property. That's a whole other level.
And it's not just property damage. This misinformation, it can actually slow down the rollout of 5G, which has huge potential benefits, you know?
Like what? Besides faster downloads, I mean.
Well, think about things like remote surgery, or self-driving cars, or smart cities. All of that relies on fast, reliable connectivity. 5G is a big part of that future.
So it's not just about convenience, it's about enabling some really advanced technologies.
Exactly. And that's why this whole amulet thing is so frustrating. It's profiting from fear and misinformation, and it's potentially holding us back.
It's a tricky problem, though. How do you combat misinformation, especially when it's being spread by people with a big platform?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think better education is part of it. Helping people understand the science, in a way that's not intimidating.
And maybe more transparency? Like, if people could easily see the actual EMF levels around them, maybe that would help?
Yeah, there are actually some cool new technologies being developed for that. More sophisticated EMF sensors, real-time monitoring. DOT could be a game changer.
It's a good reminder, though, to always be critical of what you see online, especially when it comes to health claims.
And to look for reliable sources. Like, if someone's trying to sell you something while telling you the government is hiding the truth, maybe be a little skeptical.
Good advice. So, to wrap this up, the bottom line seems to be 5G is safe, these amulets are bogus, and we should all be a bit more critical of what we see online.
Well said, Jenny. And hey, if you're really worried about EMF, just hold your phone a little further from your head. Problem solved, no amulet required.
Haha, there you go. Thanks for breaking this all down with me, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Anytime, Jenny. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.